In the last episode of the podcast, I had mentioned about that wonderful Krishna Janmashtami which we celebrated. In those days, Swami used to write a lot of letters to all of us students. In fact, Swami would sometimes post the letters, and on top of the cover, Swami would have written Brindavan Boys, capital B for Brindavan and capital B for boys. And sometimes you would also see stamps behind. There would be an arrow mark and the stamps would be behind the envelope. And the letters would be beautiful pieces of advice to all of us. I remember one particular letter. In fact, the tradition those days was the letter would dictate it to all of us to write it down, because it was meant for all of us. In this particular letter, Swami refers to all the boys as Prema Putras, children of love. And then he says, "The salutations which all of you have sent have been received. Distribute to all drops of my love. Laziness is useless in any field of endeavor, and in the field of spirituality, it is positively useless. Tendencies, laziness, a sense of taking things easy, a feeling of tiredness do not have a place in the spiritual field. A student, in order to succeed in an examination, undertakes any amount of labor. If an ordinary worldly education requires such a sense of steadfastness and single-minded dedication to achieve the goal, then, boys, imagine what tremendous, severe and intense effort is required in the sphere of supra-worldly education. Spending one's time by being immersed in unnecessary and futile debates and discussions, being associated with things associated with the senses, and to run after desires is not good and healthy. Spending one's time by being immersed in unnecessary and futile debates and discussions, being associated with things associated with the senses, and to run after desires is not good and healthy. To be under the illusion that there is water in a mirage, and to seek this water and to get tired and fatigued in the process does not fetch any dividends. This is not going to quench the thirst. He who becomes a slave to his senses and runs after his desires will be led to the same sense of disappointment, frustration, and despair. A musk deer, unaware of the fact that the perfume emanates from itself and imagining that the perfume is elsewhere, looks and searches for it. In the same way, man, unaware of his real identity and the true nature and thinking that God is elsewhere, harbors the illusion that he wants to go to Patti. This indicates a mind which is not secure and strong. The situation of our boys is like that of one who sits on the banks of the flowing river of life but still suffers from intense thirst. The attitude of our boys is like that of one who sits by the side of heaps of rice but still suffers from the pangs of hunger. Not realizing that the effulgent Sai is within them, our boys are groping hither and thither in the dark. The world of bliss is there alone. However, it cannot be seen by the eyes. The one and the only reason for this is a life based on and lived in the senses. How fortunate they would be if only they were to plunge in the adventure of experiencing Sai and putting in the required effort. Truly speaking, the Brindavan boys are definitely Punyulu and positively Danyulu. However, by still not putting into practice Sai's ideals to the required extent, they have not been able to give full satisfaction to Sai. Too much talk, excessive talk is not decreasing. Developing contacts with others is increasing. These should be reduced. For the present, if they were to rectify these two, they will secure Sai's love. They are not believing in the fact that Sai is in them, around them, witnessing everything and listening to everything. There is no greater or creditable thing than to realize this fact. My dears, fill the mind with high thoughts and highest ideals. Place them day and night before you, and out of that will come great work. Talk not of impurity, but say that we are pure. We have hypnotized ourselves into this thought that we are little, we are born, and that we are going to die, and into a constant state of fear. With love and blessings, Baba. This was one beautiful letter that Swami wrote at that time. There are other letters also which are equally fascinating. I remember one occasion which also incidentally happened after a Sankranti cow procession. The cow procession had just got over, in the sense that the cows had been brought to the Sai Ram shed and Aarti was taken, when suddenly some Sevadal people came running and said, "Boys, don't disperse. And then Colonel Jogarao and Mrs. Ratanlal arrived. They had come from Puttaparthi. Swami had asked them to leave, saying that when you reach Brindavan, it will be just in time. Take this prasadam and distribute it to the boys. So they came, brought the prasadam and distributed to all of us. And it had been quite some time since Swami had come to Brindavan. So we all surrounded them and asked about how Swami is, what is Swami doing, does Swami remember us, and things like that. And then the very next day, both of them returned to Prashanti Nilayam. And 2 days later, we got a beautiful letter from Swami describing the visit of Uddhava to Brindavan. The Gopikas were missing Krishna very much, and Krishna also felt the pangs of separation from his beloved devotees. So he sent Uddhava to console them. And Uddhava was highly philosophical, and Krishna wanted him also to learn a lesson from the Gopikas' devotion. And so when Uddhava arrived, the Gopikas, he assembled all the Gopikas and told them, "See, I have got a letter from Krishna." And the Gopikas said, "You read it yourself." Because one Gopika said, "If I touch this letter, it'll become ashes because of the fire of the pangs of separation from Krishna." Another devotee, Gopika, said, "If I start reading this letter, the tears which well up in my eyes will smudge the ink, and therefore I cannot read it." And then Uddhava was very shocked to see the kind of devotion these devotees had for him, for Krishna. And the Gopikas asked him about how Krishna was and when is Krishna coming and so on. And Uddhava was very thrilled with their devotion, and he realized that all that he had conceptualized as devotion was merely theoretical. And here were the devotees of Krishna, the true devotees, the Gopikas, who felt that sense of absence from him. And so when Uddhava returned, he told Krishna that he had been humbled seeing the devotion of the Gopikas. And even as we were reading this letter, we all felt that we should in some way communicate to Swami how thrilled we were to receive this letter from Swami. And so one small boy was hoisted on the Kadapa slab table and he read out the telegram we were to send to Swami. That was the practice those days. We would send a telegram to Swami, and on behalf of all the students, it would be read out to all, and then any corrections which were suggested would be made, and then it would be sent. And this boy said, "Most beloved Swami." And the moment he said this, someone shouted, "Swami has come." And we all rushed out, and our plates flew in all directions because we had come for breakfast. And hearing that Swami had come, we just threw whatever was in our hands and rushed. And when we went to the portico, Swami got down from the car, looked at all of us and said, "Me telegram ochindi. I received your telegram." And that evening when Swami came to the hostel, Swami said what had prompted him to write that letter. He said, when Mrs. Ratanlal and Colonel Jogarao were in Brindavan, you all surrounded them and asked about Swami. It made me nostalgic, and I remembered the time when the Gopikas asked Uddhava the same question, "How is Krishna? What is he doing? When is he coming? Is he remembering us?" Swami said, "This is what I remembered, and that is why I wrote that letter." And then mischievously Swami said, "Of course, those Gopikas were true devotees. But it was somewhat like that. But there are no true Gopikas in Brindavan." That's what he said with a smile and said, "Bangaru, Bangaru," and blessed all of us. And we are all very thrilled. This was the type of relation that we had with Swami. And Swami would be so affectionate, and he would tell us how the devotees of old yearned for him and make us feel in some way that we too should develop that kind of yearning for him, because after all it was the same Lord. It is just that the times had passed and this was another Brindavan. But as Swami used to remind us, this is not some other Brindavan. This is the same Brindavan in Kali Yuga, and the same Krishna has now come as Sai Krishna. Your Sai Krishna. That's what he used to say. And so this was another incident which I remember when I remember the letters that he used to write. Of course, in the next episode, I will also mention about how Swami would correct us. It was not only love, but he would also express to us his anguish when he found that we had not measured up to the mark. And he would say how he had taken the responsibility for our welfare from our parents. He said that because of their devotion, they had handed you all to me, and it's now my duty to take care of all of you. More of this in the next episode. Sai Ram.